Aldous.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. It's a pleasure to serve with you and the Chair, and I congratulate the Honourable Member for Bath for securing this debate. It does appear, Mr. Betts, that debates on community energy are synchronised in the parliamentary timetable to take place every 6 months. On the one hand, this does illustrate the groundswell of support from communities all around the UK to come forward with their own bespoke schemes. But on the other hand, the fact that we're turning up every 6 months would suggest that we're not getting anywhere. Mr. Betts, the rationale for empowering community energy schemes is compelling. To decarbonise our energy supply, our transport system, our heating networks, we need a shed load of electricity. We need to be firing on all cylinders. Communities from all around the UK want to do their bit to play their role in getting to net zero. If you impose a wind farm, a solar farm or a hydro scheme on a community, you may well run into resistance. But if that same community works up its own plans, you're more likely to get somewhere. Community energy schemes can also play a key role in revitalising local economies, creating sustainable long-term jobs and promoting a truly circular economy. Mr. Betts, to enable community energy to play this full role, regulatory barriers need to come down. Work on doing this needs to start straight away. Last year, deployment was at a record low, and at a local level, local authorities are developing their own climate action plans, and they want to get on with putting them into practice. The one-size-fits-all supply licensing regime, even if there can be regional demarcation, the complexity of the electricity market and the costs of entry are stifling community development. Local price signals are also heavily dampened and are thereby out of sync with the government's stated desire to encourage flexibility at all levels. Mr. Betts, there is a need for regulatory reform, and I would suggest the following issues do need to be addressed. Firstly, it should be made possible to grant derogations from standard licence conditions and to grant a supply licence for specific geographical areas or premises types. Secondly, BEIS should ask Ofgem to provide guidance on the steps needed to support community energy and to establish a right to supply. Thirdly, Ofgem themselves should give full consideration to the provision of a local supply licence. Fourthly, the reform of the supplier hub model should be fully investigated. And finally, careful thought should be given to the effectiveness of the Smart Export Guarantee Scheme. This should include looking at the range, nature and uptake of SEG tariffs and considering what steps need to be taken to improve the route to market for community energy projects. Mr. Betts, whilst it provides pleasant respite to be having such consensual debates, we do need to get on with making meaningful and significant progress down the road to net zero. Local communities do have a significant role to play, and to ensure that they can do this, we need to remove those regulatory barriers. I acknowledge that in many respects this is complicated and there is perhaps a tendency to put it in the too difficult to do column. But there is very limited, if any, political resistance, and in fact, as we're hearing, a groundswell of grassroots support from all around these 4 nations. I would thus request that the Minister should ask his team to work with Ofgem to produce a strategy for removing these hurdles. Therefore, when we next debate community energy, perhaps in 6 months' time, it will be when he is making a statement in the main chamber, setting out the steps that he is taking that will unleash a wave of community energy projects. Thank you.